Well, good morning. It's Sunday. Tarun Carter will be happy to know that I'm starting this again. Sunday morning. And I'm only starting this for selfish reasons because, honestly, I've got nothing else. So who gives a shit at this point? I went to the Improv last night and I ran into a girl and she said, she actually convinced me, I tried doing this podcast with a friend a few months ago. And honestly, we kind of ran out of steam. I was just tired of talking about, stuff that didn't really interest me. And, I'm a pretty busy guy too. I'm always shooting stuff. I'm always writing. And I was like, well, it's important to me to be authentic with whatever it is that I do. Whether that's writing scripts, shooting content. But I was like, I don't have time to do a podcast. And, honestly, this is just going to be me talking. So if I have any listeners left from previously, this is all it's going to be is me trying to be as authentic as possible because I got nothing else. So bear with me because I'm operating on about 4 hours of sleep. And if you know anything about me, you know that I work a lot and I don't stop. That's pretty much my Achilles heel because I'll just work in 10 different directions and just grind myself to the point where I'll get sick. But I can't sleep after like 4 hours, so I wake up and I was like, well, let me just get this out of the way and just talk about what happened last night. So yesterday I got booked to do this Indian show. It was called AsianAF. That's what it's called. I'm not trying to swear. That's what the show was called. And it was interesting for me because I'm Tarun Shetty. I've been a comic for about 20 years. And I started in 97. And when I started, there were only a few comedians. It was me, Russell Peters, Jerry Bednoff, and a few other guys. So when Russell kind of blew up off his YouTube video, that's how he blew up. He had this video on YouTube, and it was like a half-hour thing, and, it was, I'm going to hurt you real bad, all that, whatever. So he blew up, and every Indian family was into Russell Peters. Fortunately, they couldn't afford Russell Peters because he charged $100,000. So they try to find the next Indian comedian, and I happened to be in that tier. So I'd get these calls. They'd call me and be like, hey, Tarun, can you perform in my son's wedding, or can you do this Indian event, whatever that may mean? And I'd fly to these godforsaken places around the country and just perform. Most of the time, they wouldn't even know what comedy was. It's these Indian aunties and uncles, and they would give me the microphone, and I'd have to do 45 minutes. Where I didn't even have 45 minutes. I'd just go up there and do maybe like 25 minutes and try to talk to the audience the next 20. And they were pretty horrible, but, it was good money. It was like, $1,200, $1,000. But every time I remember performing on these shows, and I'd just be sitting in the audience before going up, like, God, this is like walking into fire. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm so scared. And this sucks. So I did that for several years. And then, people don't know this, but I like shooting videos and a filmmaker. So I had this web series called AsianAF, and that started taking off and kind of eased up on the stand-up. I started saying no to gigs, and lo and behold, like 1,000 other Indian comedians came on the scene, and they kind of bit into that work that I used to get. And I never really got called for these Indian shows, also known as Desi shows. Lo and behold, 8-9 months ago, this girl calls me up, emails me. She's like, "Hey, we have this show called Asian as Fuck. It's this Asian comedy show. We'd love to have you on," which is beyond me because I'm not really on the radar comedy wise. I mean, I did comedy about 12, 13 years, pretty hard. And then I pretty much eased up. I got a day job because I was broke. And I did stand-up comedy like once, twice a week, 3 times a week. But I wasn't like, touring at all. I was like, well, I'll do it for fun as a hobby, like my parents always said. And I shot videos. I never stopped making videos. In fact, here's a quick story. I remember I actually was an assistant at UTA. And I remember I was booked at the Comedy Store main room. And I had to get to an 8 o'clock show in the main room. And I was still working at night for my boss. So I told him I had to take a smoke break. And I actually drove to the Comedy Store. And I did my spot in my suit. And they were like, "Why are you dressed up?" And I was like, "Well, I came from a corporate show." Such BS. And then I came back, of course, late. My boss was like, "Where were you?" I had to make up some nonsense. The point of this is I've always kept it going. Sometimes a bit more of a charge than other times, but I've always kept it going. But when I quit my job, I had like 3 jobs. But when I got fired actually. But when I got fired from my last job and I started doing stand-up and comedy more full-time again, it was a different scene. It was way different, way more Indian comedians. And I really felt like I wasn't on the map anymore, like how I used to be. Like there was a time I was like, "Oh, this is Tarun Shetty, we got to get this guy." And I was like, no, I was just kind of fighting to even just, make a name or just get any recognition. So they called me up and they were like, "Hey, can you do this comedy show?" And I was booked up, couldn't do it for like the last 2 shows. And this show, they asked me to do it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do this." Take note, I've been performing as Bobby Khan the past year. And there's a side story to that, which I'll get into. Essentially, I've been, I did that movie, Bobby Khan, back in 2012, and it was a great character, and, I've always done sketches as Bobby Khan, and I was touring on the road with my friend Darren Carter, and I started doing it on the road, and it was so free. It was fun. I was like, well, let me see what happens here, and I've just been doing it, and I don't know. I've just kept doing it, and I enjoy it, so that's why I do Bobby Khan on stage. That might change at some point, but for now, I'm just trying to develop a clean act. Cut to the present moment. So I go do this Indian show last night as Bobby Khan, and they were super nice. It was packed out, UCB Theater, and I have not done a Desi/South Asian show in so long. I show up there dressed as Bobby Khan. And, the one thing about Indians is it's like, I think I have this competitiveness with Indians. I think I've always had it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I've always had that competitiveness. Dating back from Aziz Ansari, who I used to see at the comic strip, and he passed at the club before I did. And then the owner told me that, the booker told me of a comic strip said, "Hey, I already passed Aziz, I can't pass you. I have an Indian guy." And then there was Hassan Minhaj, who I know, who's a great guy. But, I was like, well, I've always felt, I always felt I'm as talented as Hassan, I deserve it. But that's just a common comedy thing with comedians where they're like, well, I deserve this. How come this guy is that? I deserve this. And I've really tried hard to let that go. I've really tried to, meditate and not think about other comedians and what they're doing and try to be on my own path. It's extremely hard. It's extremely hard, let me tell you. Because if you're a doctor or if you're a lawyer, you can do your own thing and you can etch a path for yourself and you can make a living. But in comedy, if a club booker says, hey, I have an Indian guy, I'm not going to book you, that's food off your table. So it goes deeper than just jealousy. It becomes making a living and insecurity for me anyways. Like, I've always felt like, oh, I don't have my shit together. I cannot get married. I can't have a family if I can't provide for them properly. There was this one Indian girl I was dating when I was like 28 and 28, 30. I really love this girl. And we broke up. She wanted to get married. And I said, I can't marry you because I felt like I just wasn't ready. And that I would have driven that marriage into the ground, which I undoubtedly would. So, and this will be a lot of flashbacks, me going back and forth. So back at this comedy show, and it was interesting, this Indian comedy show, because they tried to get some notable South Asian names. There's a girl there. Her name was Sujata Day. I'm going to name names. I don't care anymore. And I cast her in Desi OC when I was shooting that web series. And, she was another actress. So I saw her yesterday, and she was super sweet. Very sweet girl. And she was like, oh, yeah, I'm shooting a feature movie. And I was like, what? You're shooting a feature movie? I mean, I'm so out of touch. Maybe she's written some great movie, and she's a great director. But I remember for that moment, I was thinking about my friend Atif Mirza, who directed Bobby Khan, who's so talented. And I was like, here's a guy who's been shooting stuff for the past almost 2 decades. And I was like, this guy's been trying. I guess I feel bad because he directed Bobby Khan, and I always thought Bobby Khan would launch him into a feature directing career. And I was not jealous of her. I was happy for her. But I was intrigued with how the universe works, because I've never seen any of this girl's directing stuff online, and I'm pretty adamant about following that kind of stuff, especially with my friends on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure she's a Facebook friend. So that was that, and I was like, well, that's cool, and I was like, well, it's great seeing you. Good luck with your movie. And of course, I texted Atif, and I was like, because another one of my friends, Geeta Malik, who I started with at Showbiz India, she's also directing a feature. Super happy for her. She's great. And I was like, well, I told Atif, my friend Atif, I was like, dude, is there like a sign-up sheet to direct feature movies? Because all these Indian girls are directing movies. And it's really, I mean, honestly, I think this timing of the world, the zeitgeist of Indian female directors, women of color. And if you're talented, God bless you. You have an opportunity and shot, and that's what this business is all about, is waiting for that opportunity and shot and being ready for it and then capitalizing on it. I mean, I've seen it with people, my friends, people I know. They were ready. They were, or if they weren't ready, they faked it and they jumped right into it. You cannot say no to opportunities because this business is fucking tough. It's a tough business, and I cannot even tell you how tough it is. I mean, people ask me for advice. My family, I got family, and they were like, hey, can you speak to my cousin or my nephew? I don't want to talk to them. I really don't, because I don't want to dissuade them from even trying, because I'm so fucking jaded sometimes. And I want people to try and go after their dreams, but all honestly, this business has kicked the shit out of me about 1,000 times, and, I'm crying on the floor. Tried to kill myself when I was like 30 and drove into a bridge, which I didn't do, obviously. So, back on the show, this Indian show. So this was a great experience for me, just to go to this show. Aside from performing, just to just to test myself psychologically and see people from the past and, my jealousy levels and whatever. Again, I try not to be a jealous person, and I'm, for the most part, I'm pretty happy about comedians and people who are doing stuff. And there's another girl who spoke. Her name was, who was there? Nishi Muncie. Am I saying that right? I don't know. She's an actress. But I remember her because my brother's an actor, and he is the same manager as her. And I guess she works a lot. She's like the South Asian Indian actress. And they interviewed her during the show. It was such a weird comedy show. It's like, hey, here's some comedy, here's stand-up and improv. Now we're going to interview a working Indian actress. And they sat her down and asked her some questions. And kind of like generic questions. And they were like, so what do you think about your career or something? And she's like, you know what? People said I wasn't going to work. Now I'm working. I'm 30 shows in or whatever. And even then I was like, again, I don't know that girl. I'm sure she's talented. But I'm always intrigued with why some people work, why some people don't work. Because, I had another friend who I don't really talk to named Shazia Dean. She's beautiful. She was on DCOC and super talented, so talented. And she'd go to all these auditions and she never really broke through as an actress. And it's so weird to me how some people, have that spark and they go right through, and other people don't. Maybe I'm just self-projecting my own self compared to other comedians. But it's almost like this enigma that I'll never understand it. I don't think anybody will. And if you try to apply a formula to it of how the business works, you're going to shoot yourself because there's no rhyme or reason. And I'm telling you, this is the guy. I've been doing this 20 years. There's absolutely no rhyme or reason. You've got to be authentically who you are and fit the right casting or the right whatever the hell they're looking for. And I can give you 1,000 examples, which I'm not going to get into right now, but that's the only thing I know is it's timing and a little luck, and you've got to be somewhat decent to hold yourself on screen or whatever talent you may possess. So you got to be developing constantly. So there you go. So I watched from the sidelines, and this girl gave her interview and whatever. I'm sure she's doing a self-tape right now, whatever the hell she's doing. And then there's another Indian comedian there. I forget her name. I can't even remember her name. And I walked up to her, and I was like, you know what? I don't know any of these Indian comedians here in town, and there's these South Asian Indian girls who I don't even know. I barely know these girls. I know like one girl out of like 12, and they have this show called We Are Not the Same. They do this comedy show. And first of all, I've seen all these girls do comedy, most of them, and they're like whatever on stage. What's where they should be. I mean, they're like new comedians, so they're exactly where they should be. And, I support them. So I just remember I saw this girl last night, and I walked up to her, and I was like, hey, my friend Adam Hunter, one of my best friends, he was doing her comedy show. And I walked up to her and I was like, hey, my friend Adam Hunter. I was like, hey, my friend Adam mentioned you to me. She's like, hey, how do I know you? She goes, how do I know you? And I go, Adam Hunter, he's a friend of mine. He was talking highly of you. He wasn't talking highly of her. I just said that shit because I was trying to make an intro and just make her feel good. But he told me that he was doing her comedy show. So, actually, he did say something nice about her. He said that she was a nice person. So I walked up to her and I was like, hey, my friend Adam Hunter. And she goes, we met 3 times. And then she just walked away from me. Like she seemed like she was irritated because I didn't remember her. But I'm thinking, God, you have a comedy show called We Are Not the Same. How the hell am I supposed to remember you guys? I mean, I was so irritated that I felt like I was blown off. But then I thought, well, this is a story in my head. I'm clearly making this up. And again, this is a spiritual test, this whole comedy show, to see where I am consciously. And I think I passed. Because you know what? Honestly, I was genuinely happy for Sujata. And I watched pretty indifferently Nishi Munsey's interview, and this girl seemingly blowing me off. I was okay with it. I was like, well, whatever it is, I'm sure it's her shit. My performance was decent. I thought it was good, considering it was an all-Indian crowd. They were really nice, really supportive. The girl Shilpa, who booked me, was awesome. I've never even talked to this girl. She booked me. And I felt really good about it. And my friend Ashna Patel, one of the best TV hosts in the game, came out and supported me. So nice of her. So big shout out to Ashna for coming out and watching me. And then afterwards, I went to the Improv Comedy Club, which is probably one of the, biggest clubs, hottest clubs on Melrose Avenue. And those clubs are a test for me because I'm not in any of the clubs. I'll be honest, I'm not. I used to be at the Comedy Store somewhat. Used to get spots at the Laugh Factory somewhat. But those days are long gone. It's another story about the Comedy Store, but I've kind of been shut out, which is fine, totally fine. I get up elsewhere. So I've been trying to make my way back into the improv. Not that I was ever in the improv, but I'm trying to get spots there. And I go there, and my only goal was, but hanging out there, I was like, just ask the manager if I can do late night. That was my only goal. Ask the manager if I can do late night spots. If I can just walk away with one thing, just do that. And I did that. I found the manager named Joe, nice guy, super nice guy, approachable. And I was like, hey, dude, is it okay if I do late night spots? Which means when the show ends, they let comedians go on stage for, 6 or 7 people. Hey, man, at this point, I'll take that. I'll do whatever I have to do to get on stage. And I did that. And Darren went up, and it was interesting watching Darren go up because Darren's a destroyer. He's great. He's amazing. And he had an okay set. He had a good set, actually. But where they put him on the show, like 2 hours in like the improv lab, which is like a side stage, And like the host was like some transgender, I don't know, comedian who did like no time, brought Darren right up. Like a crowd of people in the back just left, like right at the beginning of his set, which totally changed the dynamic. So I've seen him destroy a billion times with his opening jokes, and they were getting whatever laughs, and it was like, oh my god, this club is no joke. Like literally, they will, you can get tested here. And I haven't been at that club long enough, nor do I think I've done like 3 spots at the improv, so I won't even know. But I did meet a girl there last night, and she told me, I was telling her everything I've done, like read a book and sketches and all this shit, movies. And, I was like, I don't know, I've done everything I possibly can. And I told her about the podcast I tried months ago. And she said, well, try it again. And I was like, I don't want to get any guest. She said, well, just talk, who cares? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, fuck it. So this is it, guys. I'm not going to hold back. And hopefully I didn't hold back in this episode. I mean, that's exactly what happened last night. And, live another day. Have a great Sunday, guys.